There is a version of you that is stronger, calmer, and completely untouchable. A version that moves through this world with quiet power, unbothered by noise, unmoved by opinions, and immune to the slow poison that most men never even notice is killing them. But here is the thing. That version of you cannot exist while certain people remain close. Right now, at this very moment, there are people in your life draining your energy, dimming your vision, and quietly pulling you away from the man you are supposed to become. Not through dramatic betrayal, not through loud arguments, but through something far more dangerous, their constant presence. Have you ever noticed how some people leave you feeling lighter after a conversation, and others leave you feeling hollow, exhausted, and somehow smaller? That feeling is not a coincidence. That feeling is a signal. And Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest minds in human history, understood this long before the modern world gave it a name. Stay with me, because what comes next will permanently change how you see the people around you. Most men walking through life right now have no idea that they are being slowly suffocated by the company they keep. Not by enemies, not by strangers, but by the people they call friends, family, even brothers. This is the hidden problem that nobody wants to talk about. Society tells you to be loyal, to stay, to forgive endlessly. And there is wisdom in loyalty when it is earned and returned. But what nobody tells you is that some connections are not relationships, they are anchors. And an anchor does not care whether you sink or swim. It simply holds you down. Epictetus, who was born into slavery and yet became one of the freest minds who ever lived, said something that should shake every man completely awake. He said that we become like those we spend our time with. Not similar, not slightly influenced. We become them. Think about that for a moment. The people you allow into your daily world are quietly sculpting who you are, what you believe, how high you aim, and how quickly you quit when life gets hard. Most men never stop to audit this. They drift through years, through entire decades, wondering why they feel stuck, why their ambition has faded, why the fire inside them burns lower with every passing season. Here is what they are missing. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. The problem is not your circumstances. The problem is your circle. And most people miss this completely. Stoicism does not teach you to hate people. Let that be absolutely clear. Stoicism teaches you to see people clearly. There is a fundamental difference between withdrawing from people in bitterness and withdrawing from people with wisdom. One is weakness. The other is self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, The Meditations, a book never intended for public eyes, that a man must protect his mind the way a soldier protects a city. You do not leave the gates open to anyone who knocks. You decide who enters. You decide what you allow to influence your inner world, because your inner world is the only kingdom you truly own. Seneca, writing directly to his friend Lucilius, made something devastatingly simple and precise. He said, "Show me your friends, and I will show you your future." He was not being dramatic. He was being exact. Seneca understood that human beings are not isolated islands. We are permeable. We absorb the attitudes, the fears, the ambitions, and the invisible limitations of those around us the way a sponge absorbs water. And here is the principle that will restructure the way you live your life. Distance is not abandonment. Distance is discernment. Choosing to protect your energy, your peace, and your purpose from people who cannot respect them is not coldness. It is the highest form of self-respect a man can practice. Strong men understand this, and now you will too. Stay with me, because the 3 pillars that follow will change everything. The first pillar is this: silence is your greatest weapon, and the wrong people will always try to take it from you. There is a type of person in every man's life who becomes deeply uncomfortable with your quiet growth. When you begin to read more, speak less, work harder, and stop explaining yourself to everyone around you, they panic. not because they want to destroy you, but because your silence becomes a mirror, and they do not like what they see reflected back. These are the people who ask why you are so serious now, who tell you that you have changed as if change were a disease, who fill every room with noise because the moment it goes quiet, their own thoughts become too loud to bear. Epictetus understood this deeply. He said that silence is a lesson learned from the many sufferings of life. There is an unspoken depth of strength in a man who can sit inside his own silence, unbothered, unshaken, completely at peace while the world around him buzzes, grasps, and performs for attention. But here is what most people never realize about silence. It is not simply the absence of noise. It is the presence of clarity. And the moment you begin moving in silence, protecting your goals, your vision, your transformation from those who would quietly diminish it, you will feel something remarkable begin shifting inside you. A sharpening, a quiet, unbreakable confidence that no one can give you and no one can take away. We will return to this in a moment. The second pillar is this: your energy is finite, and every single person in your life is either adding to it or subtracting from it. There is no neutral exchange. This is not a metaphor. This is biology, psychology, and philosophy converging on the same undeniable truth. Think about the conversations that leave you energized. The ones where ideas spark, where you feel genuinely seen, where you walk away feeling more capable and more alive than before. Now think about the conversations that drain you, the complaining that goes nowhere, the negativity that dresses itself up as realism, the subtle put-downs disguised as harmless jokes, the chaos that seems to follow certain people into every room they enter. Marcus Aurelius wrote repeatedly about the absolute importance of guarding the mind. Like a fortress, he understood that external disturbances only hold power over us when we allow them inside our walls. But what he also knew, and what most men dangerously fail to see, is that it is not enough to guard your mind from negative thoughts alone. You must guard it from the people who carry them. Because people are not just people. They are environments. And every environment either supports your growth or steadily suppresses it. Have you ever noticed how your ambition raises or falls depending on who you spend the most time with? That is not weakness. That is human nature. The Stoics did not fear that truth. They used it. And so must you. The third pillar is the one most men are completely unprepared for. And it is simply this: some people are meant to be loved from a distance. Not dismissed, not hated, not cut off with cruelty or anger, but loved with wisdom, appreciated without proximity, respected without daily access. This is one of the most mature realizations a man can ever reach in his life. And it is extraordinarily painful the first time you truly feel it. Because often the people you must create distance from are not villains. They are not evil. They are simply misaligned with the direction your life is moving. They are comfortable where they are, and your decision to push forward quietly threatens the comfortable story they have built around staying still. Seneca wrote that it is not that I do not love him, it is that his love pulls me backward, and I cannot afford to be pulled. Distance, applied with wisdom, applied without bitterness, applied with the full understanding that not every chapter of your life requires every person from your previous chapter. This is Stoic courage in its most deeply human form. And here is the question I want you to sit with honestly. Drop your answer in the comments right now if this lands for you. Is there someone in your life whom you love, but whose presence consistently makes you feel smaller? If yes, then what you are feeling is not guilt. What you are feeling is clarity. And that clarity is trying to protect you. When a man begins to consciously choose his environment, his circle, his conversations, his daily inputs, something profound begins to shift inside him. It does not happen all at once. It happens the way dawn breaks. Slowly, then completely. The noise inside your mind begins to quiet. The anxiety that once lived permanently in your chest begins to loosen its grip. Your goals stop feeling distant and start feeling inevitable. You begin to see the world not through the lens of what others expect from you, but through the lens of who you are becoming. This is what the Stoics called living according to nature, not the nature of the crowd, not the nature of comfort, but the deep, uncompromising nature of a man who knows himself and refuses to betray that knowledge for the sake of belonging. Marcus Aurelius spent decades surrounded by war, political betrayal, and relentless pressure. Yet he remained grounded, calm, and unshaken. Why? Because he had ruthlessly guarded his inner world. And the moment you begin to do the same, the version of you that once felt like a distant dream will start to feel like the only version of you that ever made any sense. Here is the turning point that most men never reach, and the reason is always identical: fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being labeled arrogant, cold, or simply too serious for the room. Let me speak to you directly. Every man who has ever achieved something genuinely real, every man who has built something that lasted, who has become someone that others quietly admire, has had to walk a significant portion of his journey completely alone. Not isolated, not broken, but alone in the sense that his vision was entirely his own, his commitment was his own, and his silence was his own. Epictetus, who had every conceivable reason to be broken by the world, refused. He wrote that no man is free who is not master of himself. And mastering yourself means, at some point, choosing your growth over someone else's comfort with your growth. That is not selfishness. That is the fundamental responsibility every man owes to his own life. The turning point arrives the moment you stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand your direction. If you have ever felt this, hit subscribe, because this channel is built entirely for men who are ready to make that turn. The final revelation is this: the distance you create from the wrong people is not a wall. It is a foundation. Every man who has ever truly transformed himself has had to undergo a period of deliberate, quiet, and often lonely recalibration. A season where he chose books over noise, silence over gossip, purpose over approval, and long-term vision over short-term belonging. That season is not a punishment. It is the forge. And the man who emerges from the other side is almost unrecognizable. Not because he has become cold or detached, but because he has become clear. He knows exactly what he wants. He knows precisely what he will not tolerate. He knows who fills him with life and who slowly, quietly empties it. And he makes his choices accordingly, without guilt, without apology, and without looking backward. Seneca wrote that every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. The connections you release are not losses. They are permissions, granted to yourself by yourself, to finally become who you were always meant to be. Most people will never give themselves this permission. But you are not most people. You came into this world alone, not as a metaphor, literally. And the greatest work you will ever do is the quiet, disciplined, day-by-day construction of the man you are meant to be. That work requires protection. It requires discernment. It requires the courage to love some people from a distance so that you can love the life you are building up close. The Stoics did not teach indifference. They taught strength. The strength to feel everything deeply, choose wisely, and act with complete integrity, regardless of how difficult the moment becomes. That strength already lives inside you. You simply have to choose it. Starting today. If this video spoke to something real and honest inside you, share it with one man in your life who needs to hear it right now. And drop a comment below. Tell me, who is one person you need to create distance from? Or what was the single moment when you realized that distance made you stronger? I read every comment personally. If you are new here, welcome. This is Anonymous Achiever. Hit subscribe and stay close, because every video on this channel is built to make you harder to break.